Welcome back to the channel. My name's Adrian and it is Sunday the 2nd of November and this is my weekly channel update that is hard to actually get out today because I've got a full day on, because later on today, or by the time you've watched this, I will have ran this at our local gaming new club that's opened up, Beeves and Barons Gaming Club. So yeah, really excited to actually get this played and see what it's like. So I did a review of the core rulebook. I really like what they've done with the Evolved Edition. It's having a bit of a... Some people like it, some people hate it. It's always the way, isn't it, when a new edition comes out. But overall, I like the changes and I like the layout. It's a bit weird they've used the same art, but hey-ho. So this is my weekly update where I talk about... I've got a topic to talk about and I'll show the games that I've bought or books that have arrived and the games that have played. But if you watched last week, you'll have been aware that this week was I had a week off on holiday, which my son did his best to ruin. Oh man! So I've only had I'll do the plays. One live play this week, which was absolutely amazing. It was out on Halloween, and we all dressed up as orcs. We were playing We Be Monsters Orcs, which is a ShadowDark game where, as you guess, we all played orcs. So we, greened our faces up. Dean did amazing as the games master. It's actually, he went out live on Dungeons and Dyslexia Tabletop Tale, so it'll go out on there. And Britt was all greened up, and Jeff Whitty joined us for the first time from Korea, which was actually great to play with him. But early on in, my wife came in, basically said, "You've got to go and pick up your son. He's hideously drunk." So I had to go off mid-recording off my own channel to drive across town next to the police station. Bear in mind this house party was in, and you get your son. All his mates are like, "Yeah, thanks for picking him up." I'm there like green face paint, 50-year-old man dressed up for Halloween, picking up his drunk son, which is the first time he's ever been drunk that we're aware of. And needless to say, he did get killed in the morning. But not killed. He's still around. But yeah, get him in the car. Get his mate in the car that he'd gone with, who's constantly apologising, and then projectile vomit just comes out of my son, and he hasn't even got the seatbelt on or anything, and he's just arguing with me that his seatbelt's on, and my car, it's all leather, is just getting covered, and I have to reach across him to put the seatbelt on, dodging the vomit to get the seatbelt on, to drive his mate home, then get him out the car, then get back and carry on recording while I can hear my wife. Still, even though these are noise cancelling earphones, which is why I wear them, because I can't record a video because there's so much going on in my house, and I kind of listen to other stuff. I could hear what was going on, but the session itself was absolutely brilliant. I don't know how I managed to maintain not being in a foul mood. Then we had a break, and I used that break to go and scoop water out of my car because, well, needless to say, it needs professional valeting now. And my son's going to pay for it because that's the sort of father I am. I'll eventually give him the money back when he's worked it off with a variety of jobs. But initially, the punishment is for him to have to put my car back because it stinks. It absolutely stinks, because I've cleaned all the seats off and the sides and the pockets and doors. But where it's gone down the side of the chairs, I can't get my hands down. So I'm going to have to get someone out to come and do that, which is disgusting. But I was like, oh, as I was cleaning it out, then I had to come back in and carry on with the second half of the live show. So that's probably a massive overshare, but that's my one play that we've had this week, which that's a great game. But oh man, who'd have kids? Well, who'd have 5 kids? I suppose it's my fault. We've all done it. This is a weird thing, isn't it? You try not to be angry with your son, because we all did it. We all snuck booze to parties and got hideously drunk. What I don't think well, I know I never did, is have my parents come and pick me up an hour in, because my dad would have beaten me. He was very sort of Victorian in that sort of, he was a proper old man's man. So yeah, I would have took quite a sting for that. So I was always to make sure that when I did it, I was staying at a friend's house, and I don't think I ever got. I must have got that bad. Anyway, So yeah, that's the one play that I've had this week. Coming up though, because I was on holiday last week, so I sort of took a whole week off, which was quite nice. But we've got a couple of plays, so we're carrying on with Draskara with Zane Daniel, which is a ShadowDark. This is his setting. Sadly, the Kickstarter has been kicked back now to, well, the game found I think he's doing it on is I think March. So, but playtesting is continuing, so that is ongoing. And then on Friday, we've got our first ever 5e live one shot. We are doing One Room One Shot, which is a collection. I think it's due to come on Kickstarter soon as well. And it is basically it's a book, anthology book of loads of sort of one shot dungeons for 5th edition. So we've all got pre-generated. I think I noticed we're 4th level, so we've got a little bit of learning to do before then. So it's been a long time since I've played 5th edition. I think it's got to be 3 or 4 years. So, and it's the new edition, so it's 2024. So it'd be interesting just to see. I don't think I'm going to really notice a huge amount of difference, but I did read the new 2024 book, but just playing other things at this moment in time. So we shall see. We shall see. It's interesting to find out the sort of rule books. But yeah, I like 5th edition as an edition. I've always said I'm not a massive fan of Wizards of the Coast pre-written adventures. That's one thing. You know, there's a lot of homebrew I found every time I've run one of those. But so third-party content for 5th edition is amazing. There's so much stuff out there. So yeah, looking forward to that play as well. So let's get into what's bought or arrived. So only 3 this week. So actually, I'm slowly in the process of catching up, because normally most of these weeks I'm like 10, 15 different books and zines. So it's been a nice quiet week. But the first one that, and I've already reviewed this. The review, I don't know when it's due to go out, but we played this as a one shot again on Tabletop Tales channel, and this is the good, the bad, the good, the rad, and the bugly, which is a one-shot adventure for the incredibly wonderful Atomic Shadows. And it's a 17-page zine. I'll put the links down in the video description if you want to pick this up. So it's one of my big criticisms of Atomic Shadows was the fact there was no adventure included, and there's obviously tables for everything for the post-apocalyptic world, but I like a first-level adventures. I think if you have a unique world, just put an adventure in, and this is actually available for free or pay what you want. So I think Ralph's has done a really good compromise here, and I'm not going to sort of spoil the adventure in here, but you can go and have a look at the video when it goes out, or go and watch the live play of the game. But because it's on pay what you want, I would encourage you, if you are going to grab this up, don't grab it for free. You know, just pay something, $1, $2, $10, whatever it may be, because, you know, Ralph has spent time writing this, putting it together. So, you know, go and reward his talent for doing so. The next one was sent to me by email, and I've only just noticed this. So if I don't respond to emails when you send me something in emails, a lot of the time it's because it's gone into my junk, and a lot of times I just delete junk out. I've had my email address now for since I was at university, so it's 30 odd years, so I get a lot of junk on it, so I don't always notice things. So if you are going to send me something, and just via email, I'm going to sort of recommend that you put a note under one of my videos anywhere. If you haven't joined my Discord, just say, Adrian, I've just sent you an email, and put the date on what you've sent it, so I can then go and check the junk mails or my deleted folder to go and find it. Because I'd hate to miss stuff like this. And this is Codex of Boons and Banes, which is, these sort of things are some of my favourite zines for ShadowDark in here. Okay, so it's been sent to me by Michael, I assume that's Benoit, the way it's pronounced. And we have got some hyperlinking, which is good to see. But this is 22 pages of magical items and curses and random benefits for making magical items. So in essence, you've got when you're going to create an item, you've got here, this table over here on the top right, you're going to roll 2d6, and you're going to you add them up, and if it's a 5 to 10, it's going to have a benefit. 11 to 12, 2 benefits, and if it's 1 to 2 or 3 or 4, it's going to have a curse, and 3 and 4 is going to have a benefit and a curse on here, and then it's a random way as well of having a plus all the way up to a +3 item. But we've got all the rules for creature types that it's going to do additional damage for or protection from, and then it's broken down into armor and armor curses, as well as utility items and weapons. But I'll give you an example of how cool some of these are. So you're going to roll a d66. So that's then going to determine whether you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the 6 in the box. So you can see there's a lot of choices here. But we've got things like a flashbang on your armor, which is so obviously in the benefits. A natural 1, attack roll against you. The attacker is blind for a round. You know, athletes, advantage on checks to jumping, swimming, or climbing. She's going to give you something more interesting to throw onto the armor. Conversely, if you get one of the curses, you know, here we go. Number 1, 1-1. Death timer is always 1. That's a horrible curse. It really is nasty. Especially because I don't like to tell my players about curses until it actually happens. I'm one of those. And, you know, if they're going to roll, oh, it's all right, I've got a 7, you know, a +3 on my con, and then they roll a 4 on their death timer, and they go, oh, I'd set it to 7. You go, no, it's 1. Your armor's cursed. Sorry. Great little thing. Weapon attractions, weapon attacks have advantage against you. I once gave one of my players a bow. This was in 5th edition. And if they rolled a 1, the arrow would return. And I didn't tell him. So and it automatically hit on the return. So yeah, I think curse items do make for really interesting play. And as a games master, don't be scared of them. You know, sometimes they might teach the players a lesson. Sometimes, you know, because I think sometimes players get a little bit too confident, or they just think they're the smartest person in the room, where sometimes it's just good to give them something with a curse on where they think they're being rewarded, and the person in the town actually would rather just hand off the cursed items. Benefits on utility items here. So Ghost, once per day, move through solid objects for 3 rounds. That's good. +1 static protection, always handy for an AC increase. We've got things like haste in here. But what horrible curses is you've got mouth breather, able to hold your breath for a maximum of 1 round. I hate mouth breathers. They just annoy me in general. So I don't want to roll that one. Pond scum, temporarily loses power unless bathed in scummy water every 24 hours. Oh, that's just gross. That's horrible, but fun. Oh, great. Okay, what sort of weapons things we got in here? True Strike, once per day, gain advantage on attack and damage. That's cool. That's pretty powerful, and you're going to be able to, you know, select that yourself. Stability, checks to stabilize you are 12. Ooh, that's going to make you live probably a little bit longer, because that DC 15 can be quite tough to get hold of, especially, you know, when you roll your 3d6 down the row, and a lot of the times you're not going to get more than a +1 or +2, so it can be quite hard to stabilize. And, you know, sometimes you do roll that 18 or 19 or 20, and it's a good feeling to stabilize someone, especially when you're in on a minus. So what sort of nasty curses have we got for weapons? Rage. When dropping below half hit points, DC Charisma 12, or attack the nearest creature for a D4 rounds. I had a werewolf character that was like that. He had this madness, and if it went off and I failed my willpower check, I would just attack the nearest person, which inevitably was my friends. So just changes the action economy in a combat. That's going to be quite swingy and fun for a games master. I'm not sure the player's going to like it. Oh, pauper! This is brilliant. Coins you touch or carry are turned to copper. What a great little scene. I will link this. I probably won't do a full review of it, because I think there isn't much more I can add to it from that without spoiling stuff, but I'll put a link for this because it is available on DriveThruRPG. What a fantastic thing to say. I love books like this, so thank you, Michael, for sending it over. And then finally, this arrived last night, so I've had a brief look at it, and I'm going to give you my initial thoughts. The Travelling Black Manor of the Withering Woods by Matthew Aaron Gorman. So he sent this to me last night over email, and my initial reaction is black, white writing, changes in colours. Is, you know, I'm going to show you this. We've got yeah. The artwork's amazing, and actually the idea of the story is pretty good, because I like haunted woods, and this is haunted wood with hags, and we've got a group of hags here. I don't know, where are we? Have I gone past them? Here we go. We've got the coven here of hags, and they are 3 different hags, 3 different sort of spell casting as well, which is quite good. And it's a big hex crawl in here, but there is, at some stage, you will discover this manor, which it says here is part 2. I had flick through. I'm not going to sort of spoil it, but I think on quick read through, I'll definitely be looking at this for a full review. I'm not a massive fan of colour. At least it's clear, but I do find white writing on black backgrounds tiring. So it's going to take me slightly longer to get through. I like the breakup in colours here, so it does make it a lot easier, and the fonts here are quite nice and clean. It has got a hex crawl map, and the one thing I did notice as I go through this is most of these numbers on the hex crawl map are sort of obviously their areas, but there's a chunk of them. Let me just scroll on. Little dungeons as well. So there's like a ton of little dungeons, which one thing I really like about these, and it's one of the reasons why I like the Devoured Labyrinth, is that I could take a dungeon like this, and I don't even have to put it into this hex crawl if I don't want to. So I've got a hex crawl if I want to use it. If not, you're picking up a book with an absolute ton of little areas, encounters, and dungeons. Great, absolutely great. So again, I'll link that as well in the video description. I will get around to doing a full review of it because I like the idea. I do like haunted woods. I do like covens of hags and those sort of things with 3 different unique hags. And like I say, you've got this magical manor that appears at the end, which is really interesting. But yeah, let's get into my conversation topic of the week. The plan was actually to do a full shelfie because a few people sort of, when I'm in interviews and people have asked me, what actually is in your shelf, because the light coming from my window can be a little bit annoying. So I was going to go through the shelves and sort of show off some books and talks. And I haven't really got enough time to get that together because I don't know how to film that as yet, because that's kind of dawned on me last night. But I want to kind of talk about something else, which is, so I've got to be careful what I say because I can't give too spoilers, but I've got some good news for me and a little bit, it's probably wanting a little bit of help really on where we do it. So I've written some adventures now. So I've been sort of put in for two different places. One is a Borg adventure. So these are pre-existing books where I've approached the designers and we've had conversations and I go, yeah, throw something in. So I've put it in, and the Borg one has gone, yeah, we love your adventure. And that's been written and sent, and I'm just waiting for the sort of how the layout's going, because it's really weird writing adventures, because I've been running games for 35 years. I got into Games Master very quickly. The first thing I ever ran was Rollmaster, which is, for anyone that's aware of it, everyone's like, you're mad, as in, that's quite an epic game to pick as your first adventure. And I ran that completely. I wasn't aware of prepping. I didn't know that was a thing. I just turned up with a notepad and made notes as they were talking, and that's how I wrote my it was about 2 or 3 month campaign. I did kill one of the players within the second week. I think I preempted the fact that there was a big squid in the lake, but he had an axe and he decided he wanted to attack it as opposed to just walking around like the rest of the party did, and they left him to die. They generally did. And he got a new character. But yeah, so I've been sort of thinking about that on writing adventures. So that one was quite easy, and I'd say it was quite easy. The adventure was easy. The hardest bit as a dyslexic is actually getting it down on paper, because it's here, and so what I've been doing when I've been walking the dogs, I've been talking over audio stuff on my phone, having ideas, and then you can create it into a Word file, and then I move, and I'm doing it all in Word. I know other people do things in different formats, but I'm not sure. This is what I mean. This is hence the reason this conversation. I don't really know where to go from here. So yeah, that's in for Borg. And the one that has really surprised me is I've been in discussions with, because this is the annoying thing, I really want to sort of just say what you're doing. But there's an anthology book being put together, and there's several of us that are writing adventures for one of my all-time favourite ShadowDark settings. And needless to say, my adventure is, I'm just one of those. It's based in a forest. It's coming in a forest. It's got wolves. It's got werewolves. It's full-on fantasy, and there's rituals and stuff going on. and it's quite adult in theme, and it's written, it's finished. But what I now need is some play testers, because one thing I don't know how to do is create monsters that aren't too powerful, or do you know what I mean? It's easy to put an adventure together. One of the hardest things is to create a unique monster from scratch, because I can't find what I want anywhere in ShadowDark. You know, I've got thousands of ShadowDark monsters available to me, and I can't find something similar to what I want. So I've got to sort of generate it from start. So I'm going to sort of put it out on my Discord, and I'm going to run the one shot of it probably over the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested, drop me a message. And yeah, you can obviously you're going to sign an NDA because, you know, it's a big thing. But also the author has asked me to create a second one. So I've got to start thinking of that now. But I never thought that I would be a writer. I'm not saying I'm a writer, and I don't mean it like that, but we are all, in essence. It's made me think about with that West Marches reviews that I did, where it suddenly dawned on me that if you fill out all those books that Carl's written, the player one, the games masters one, and the party one, you have got your own book, because the players write what they've done in the session, and as a games master you write what you do, and then, you know, over several weeks you can just put it together and you can make a book. So that's how I've been writing most of my adventures. I've been thinking about games that I've played in, and actually one comes from a film that I've watched, and I've adapted the film into it, and I'll talk about that when I can, which is the Borg one. I was like, that'd be a really good idea for a setting. And it's changed. I've changed it, but when I can talk about it, I'm going to do it in a way and see if you can work out what film. And I think it'll be quite obvious that the film that's inspired it. But yeah, the ShadowDark one's really, really exciting. So what I've actually started doing as well with my week off is I've started writing my own ShadowDark campaign setting from scratch, based on my favourite period of history. Dewan knows about it because we've talked a little bit, and he has actually done me a little bit of art on it, which he sent me, because I writing adventures I found relatively easy. Writing a campaign setting is weird, because when I take my notes and then I put them down. So what I did with the Borg one is I basically got sections on my Word document, and, you know, like scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, and just a premise of what's going to happen. And then that's where then the random tables start coming out, and then you're sort of putting in NPC ideas and things like that. So that one's not been too bad. I nearly said exactly what was going on in the ShadowDark one, so I'm trying to be really careful on what I'm saying. That one came really naturally for me, because it's a setting, and it was something I was planning on running for ShadowDark anyway. So all I've had to do is just adapt it to his world, and, you know, just change the location a little bit and things like that. So that's been quite nice, and I managed to just get that flowing. But typing out and doing it's tiring. You know, I can write, I think, probably 5 words a minute. You know, I'm like, and then I have to. None of it makes sense because dyslexia and terrible typing. I can only use these fingers at most. Occasionally I can use a thumb in there. But yeah, has anyone got any shortcuts, I think is what I'm saying. And if I can inspire anything on this channel, which is, you know, if this middle-aged dyslexic man can actually write adventures and someone's willing to publish them, I don't know for sure they are yet. You know, I've had thumbs up on both of them. We'll wait and see over the next few months when they are published, and I'll let you know. But I've really got the bug now for writing. It's really, really enjoyable thing to think of ideas and put it down. I remember years ago I read something, you know, everyone's got a novel in them. So everyone should write a book. And I'm enjoying it. I am worried that I'll record less videos, though, because I'm spending more time thinking about books now as opposed to other stuff. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, if anyone got any hints and tips for general writing, also if you've got something you want me to write for, just let me know in the comments below. You know, if you go, you know, I've got this world, or there's something I've reviewed. There's a lot of things I've reviewed I'd love to write for, because I say I'm just really enjoying this, but I don't know how precious people are, as well as obviously I said working on my own world, which I think it's going to take a long time. That is, I probably need. I think I may need to collaborate with someone on it. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there because I've got to get the dog re-walked and then I've got to get off and play this. So I will do a catch-up on how this goes. I don't think they're going to survive very long.